All right, hey there folks. So this video is going to show you how to create a shape sorter, much like this one right here. This is a possible example of something that you could do. I did make up a drawing here that I'm going to be referencing for some of the sizing. This is not, you would not have to make this drawing. I just made this for the sake of this video. It shows a top view here, which is like looking down as if we're looking straight at the red pentagon there. It shows what's called a section view, which is where the object is sliced right down the middle, right along this line, like we took a saw and chopped. And we're looking in the direction of these arrows. So we would see the inside of the box, we'd see the circle on the back, we would see the shapes here, and we can even see then the details, like how there's a little gap here. And then what I've actually got is a blown up detail. A scaled up detail drawing over here of this little piece right here to show a little better, like the distance between the lip of the lid and the distance between the shape and the side, just to really show all of those pieces. And then of course I have the overall dimensions. This is about a 50 by 50 millimeter cube, and I think this would take a while to print. I'm printing it now, but this is an acceptable amount of material, so this is an okay size to work at as well. So without further ado, I'm going to get going here. Oh wait, I lied. I'm going to also say the way I'm going to create this is I'm going to create the base, which is just the box here. I'm going to create it as a block. I'm going to hollow it out. I'll show how to do that with the shell tool. Then I will create the lid next. Which is just using some different extrusions and making sure we carefully pick some different spots, and we're going to use the offset tool. And then finally, I will create a hole for a shape and then the shape inside it. And then I will go on and I will do all the other shapes too, but if you understand it after the first one, you don't have to keep watching, but the others will be there for an example. I'm not going to add these colors. That was just for the drawing. So, all right, now truly without further ado, let me make my screen a little bigger there. There we go. So to create this, we're going to start with a rectangle here. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. So I'm just making, whoops, I clicked sketch. I meant to say, or I clicked extrude, I meant to say sketch. I'm going to sketch. I'm going to go right on the top plane here. If you don't know how to do all this stuff yet, you should work on creating the name tag. So that you have that experience, because that is the best way to learn how to just do some basic sketches. So I clicked on the corner rectangle option here. If you don't see it, you can find it in the drop down here. We will start on the origin point, make a box out about that big, and I'm going to dimension it after so we don't worry about the size right away. And please remember, you can pause or slow down this video or rewind it as you need. In case I say something too quickly for you. So I just clicked on that line to dimension it. I'm going to click on this line, make that one 50 as well. This is all based on our drawing over here, knowing that I left the dimension off. The distance from the front to the back should be about 50. The height is 50 and the width is 50. So I actually left the dimension out of that drawing. Whoops, I will edit in later. So this makes like the bottom of our box. I'll click the check mark. I'm going to extrude this. Now, I'm going to extrude it solid. So I just picked inside there. I'm going to make it 50 millimeters tall. Millimeter is my default unit, so I don't have to type mm each time. I make sure we're on new and solid, good. I'll click the check mark. Now, here's how we're going to hollow it out. There's a tool here called the shell tool right here. And what this does is it turns a solid object into a shell with a wall thickness that we get to pick. So I'm going to click the shell option. It says, hey, what faces do you want to remove? Well, I want to remove the top face so that this is like a box. Okay, and you'll see instantly that's going to give us a preview of hollowing it out. I'm going to, actually 2.5 millimeters is like perfect. I think actually though over here in the drawing, oh, I said 3 millimeters. If we look right here, this part is 3 and those look to be the same thickness. So let's actually go 3 millimeters to stick with our drawing. So click the check mark. So that just made it so our box is hollow and the top is knocked out, but the walls are 3 millimeters thick because that's what we typed in the box. Now we got to make the lid. Okay. At this point, I'm going to actually hide these planes by pushing P because they get in the way now because we don't need them anymore. I'll bring them back if I need them. So I'm going to create a sketch on the top face here. Now bear with me on how we're going to do this. We're actually going to create the lip first, And then on top of that, I'll create the next piece that's the top of the lid. So in a way, I'm going to create like the sides of the lid. I'm going to create these parts first, and then I'll do the top. So I'm going to make the sketch. I didn't click a plane yet. I'm going to pick the top edge of the box as my sketch plane. And now I'm going to use the offset tool. So what this lets me do is it lets me offset the existing lines that I have here. And this is how we're going to create this gap. I'm basically going to draw this inner line of the lid and then the outer line, and you're going to see how I do that. So the gap will be 0.25, and the thickness of that, the distance between the inside and the outside of the lip will be 3. So just watch. I'm going to pick these 4 edges, and you notice it's drawing blue lines inward. We don't want that, so I'm going to click this arrow to flip it, and then I'm just going to click anywhere. And that will bring me into the dimension here. And I said this is going to be 0.25. And that means it's 0.25 on this side plus another 0.25 over there. So I actually have 0.5 millimeters of wiggle room. And that should be enough for this to be a snug fit, but to still be able to slide on and off. If we made it touching, it would just scrape and it wouldn't go on there. So, all right, I've made that part. Now I need to create the outside part of the lid, and you'll see how this all comes together in a second, so just keep watching. So I'm going to create this outside edge now, and that's 3 millimeters away. So I'll just use offset again. I'm just going to pick these 4 sides again. I'm going to flip it again, just like this, flip. Okay, and this time when I click off this, instead of typing 0.25, I'm going to type 3. And so that gives us a lip that's 3 millimeters. And then I'm just going to extrude it. So I'll use extrude again. I'm going to pick sort of this rectangular ring. Now, that's going the wrong way, but we just learned from the offset tool we can flip it with that white arrow there. And I don't want this to go super far down. Oh, good, I said the distance from the top of the box to the bottom of the lid should be 6 millimeters. So let's type that right in this box, 6 millimeters. Good. Click the check mark. Now we have to put like a roof on this lid, and that's actually going to be pretty easy. What we're going to do is just make a sketch right on top of the ring, okay? And then I'm going to pick use, and what this lets me do, it's like offset except it doesn't move anything. It lets me reuse edges. So I clicked on all 4 edges, and now when I click the check mark, if I do extrude, I should be able to pick. There we go. I just clicked right on sketch 3 and it picked all of the lines inside there. And you see it's way thicker than we need. We just need to make this 3 millimeters again, just like the thickness of everything else. Click the check mark and it's a different color. So this happens sometimes. That was because if I go and double click on this extrude to edit it, I accidentally left new selected. I want to click add. And now it says, hey, what do you want to merge that with? Well, I want to make sure I just merge it with this gray ring. So I pick the gray ring, and now it's going to glue those 2 parts together. So I'll click the check mark. And there we have a box with a lid. Okay, so we've made it this far already. We just need to keep going. We need to add the holes for the shape. So like I said, I'm going to add a hole for the first shape, and then I'm going to create the shape in it. And then I'll go through and do the rest if you want to watch that too, but you don't have to watch beyond that point. So I'm going to click sketch, just like everything else. I'm going to pick the lid of the box, and we're going to have a pentagon up here. The shapes don't have to have a specific size, but we do need to dimension them. So let me do this first. So I'm going to click circumscribed polygon. What that means is it's going to create a circle around the outside of the shape. Well, basically, it's going to create a circle and then create a shape inside it. So the circle ends up outside or circumscribed around the shape. To place this, I click for a center point first. So if I just do this over here, it places a center, does the outside, and then I can move my mouse to pick the number of sides, or I can just type 5. So that would give us a pentagon, but we want to actually make sure it's in the right spot. So I'm going to do that again. So I'll click the circumscribed polygon button. I'm going to hover until the midpoint of that line lights up, and then I'm going to hover until the midpoint of that line lines up, and watch this. If I move out, they're both going to light up right there. And that's going to snap it so that it's stuck onto the middle point of both those lines. So I'll click. I'm going to type 5 right on the keyboard. Just push 5 and it'll jump to 5 and hit enter. And that's going to create our polygon. Now, the problems with this now are I can still rotate this, which is no good. So I'm going to pick this side, and I'm going to go up here to my constraints, and I'm going to pick vertical. So that's going to make that line vertical. If you forget to do this, it's not going to be the end of the world. You just got to be careful you don't accidentally move it. And then I also want to set the size of the circle. So I'll pick my dimension tool. And I'll click the circle once, just the outside. And let's make this 50 feels a little big. So let's do, I think I did 30. That looks too small. So I'm going to double click this. I'm going to try 35. That looks pretty good. So we'll click the check mark. So now we have our pentagon shape. Now we just have to make it into a hole and then create a shape inside it, which is super easy, even though it sounds scary. To make a hole, we're going to extrude again. So I'm going to pick extrude. I'm going to pick the pentagon when it lights up. And then instead of doing add, remember before I had to go from new to add? Well, we're going to try this third option, remove. And what that's going to do is it's going to remove the bit of that hole that's there. And if we leave this at blind, it's just going to remove up to 25 millimeters away, but I'm going to pick up to next. And what that'll do is it just goes through the lid until it gets to the next surface, which is the bottom of the lid. So it'll just stop there. And if we ever made the lid thicker, it would go with it. So that's a good bet right there. We'll click the check mark. Okay. Now I need to create a shape inside this. So I bet you guessed it. We're going to make another sketch. So I'm going to click sketch. I'm going to hover until the top of the lid lights up. We're sketching on that surface now. And if we think about it, how in the world could we create a shape that's a little bit smaller than this, but exactly the same shape? Let's use offset again. So we're getting real good at this offset tool. We'll pick all of our edges. It's going the wrong way like it was before, so we'll flip it. And our distance, if we look at our drawing, the gap between the shape and the object is 0.5 millimeters. So we're going to click anywhere to get into our dimension. We'll do 0.5. So again, this leaves about 0.5 on that side plus 0.5 over here. So there's a whole millimeter of wiggle room, which is really good. We need that. We'll click the check mark. And now we will just go up here and we will extrude. We're going to extrude that inner shape. So you don't want to get the outside part. You want to get the inner one. Pick it. And I think our height should be about 10 millimeters. That's what I did. I don't think it's in the drawing, so I will update that. And then we'll click the check mark. And now you'll see we have over here, we have our base, we have our lid, and we have our actual pentagon. And we could rename these if we want. Oh, my face is in the way. If I right click and say rename, that was our base. Right click on this, we'll rename this lid. We'll right click on this and we'll rename it pentagon. And with that, you basically are done. You just need to go through and do the rest of the shapes that you have here. My mouse just stopped working. It's okay, we'll use the trackpad. So I'm going to reposition this. So I'm just gonna create more shapes on the other side. So again, if you get this and you're like, oh, that's easy, go try it. If you wanna watch a couple more, I'm gonna do the rest of the shapes here. So let's take a look at this. We'll have on the right side, we have a square. So I'll do a sketch on this face. I'm going to go a little faster now, though, because it's easier. I'm going to use my circumscribed polygon again. Find the midpoint of that, the midpoint of one of these sides right there. Bring it up until they both light up. Click. Make the shape like that. Make sure it has 4 sides because it's a square. Enter. I want to make sure, just like before, that I'm going to turn that off, that these lines are horizontal. So I'll click one of them. We'll say horizontal. You can do horizontal or vertical. And then we have to set the size of the circle around it. Dimension tool. Click on the circle. Let's do 30 even. That looks like a good size this time. We'll click the check mark. We'll do our Extrude-Remove. So I pick Extrude. Click the square. Make sure it's on Remove. Instead of doing blind, like I said, we'll do up to next, which will go up to the next part, or the other side of the wall. Click the check mark. And then we've just got to create a shape inside this. So remember, we make a sketch right on that surface. We do offset, and we're just going to pick the outside parts of that shape, flip it to the inside, click to get our dimension, 0.5 millimeters, enter, check mark, and then we'll extrude that inner shape just like that, 10 millimeters, check mark, and that shape is in place as well. And we can see it down here now, so we could right click on this. My face is in the way again. Oh, we got a check mark for our extrude first. Right click on this, rename square. Click somewhere else, and there you have it. So like I said, I'll keep doing the rest of these shapes, but that'll make the video long, so you can totally stop now if you want. Watch it as long as you need. Let's put my face up here where it's less in the way. So on this side, I've got my square. Let's do a hexagon. Sketch. I'm going to go real fast now. Sketch. Circumscribe polygon. Get our midpoints. Midpoint there, midpoint here. Get them both. Click for the center. Make it bigger. Make sure it has 6 on the keyboard, 6 sides. Enter. Make sure that at least one of these parts, at least one of these parts is horizontal. There we go. It straightened it out. Dimension, I'm going to hit D on the keyboard to turn on my dimension tool, so I just push that with my other hand. Dimension the circle, let's do 30 just like the other one. Check mark. Extrude, remove. Pick this part, remove. Blind changes to up to next just to go to the inside of the wall. Check mark. Sketch again on the surface. Offset. Pick our 6 sides. 4, 5, 6. Flip it. Click somewhere else to place the dimension. 0.5. Enter. Check mark. Extrude. Get the shape in the middle. 10 millimeters. Enter. Check mark. All right, our hexagon's done. What do we got left? Triangle and a circle on the back. Let's do the circle next. It's easy. Sketch on the face. Circle. Get the midpoints. Midpoint. Midpoint. Uh-oh, I placed it in the wrong spot. If that ever happens, you just hit escape and then pick the tool again. Midpoint, midpoint. Bring it up. Circle out to whatever size you want, and then we'll dimension it after. Let's probably do 30, just like all the others. 30 millimeters. Check mark. Extrude. Remove. Extrude, pick the shape, remove. Up to next, check mark. Sketch on the surface. Offset. Inwards. Bam, inward. How far? 0.5 millimeters. 0.5 millimeters. Check mark. Extrude. Uh-oh, not sketch. I'm going too fast now. Extrude. There we go. Pick the inner part. 10 millimeters for the thickness of that piece. And finally, the last piece on the back. This one's a triangle. Sketch. Pick that side. Inscribe polygon. Center point or midpoint, whatever you want to call it. Midpoint, midpoint. Go till they both light up. Make our shape. Type 3 on the keyboard. Make sure the top of that is nice and horizontal. We'll pick that top piece and click horizontal. Bam. Let's set the size of it with the dimension tool. Let's do 30. Good. Check mark. Extrude. Remove. Triangle. Then we will go up to next. So this part's super repetitive. Check mark. Sketch to make the shape on the inside. Offset. We're going to offset it by 0.5 millimeters, just like all the other times. Flip it to the inside. Let's type 0.5. Check mark. Extrude. Last but not least, 10 millimeters. Check mark. And we have it. We have a shape sorter with a lid with all the shapes around it. They're not going to scrape on the sides because we left a little gap. All the pieces are done. And we did not rename them, so we could go through and rename these now. This is a hexagon. Uh-oh, hexago. Rename. And you don't have to name these. I just like to do it. It makes me feel more organized. This looks like it's the circle in the back. I picked too many things, so I'll click somewhere to unselect. Rename circle, enter. And last but not least, the triangle. And that is your shape sorter. If I ever saw one, if I right click and say isometric, it'll reset the view and you're done. All right, so I hope this helps.